Hi guys, this is a video for my eighth hour who I am abandoning today. I'm so sorry. Um, I am recording this while I'm still on spring break. And so I really hope that you guys had a good spring break. I am currently having one right now as I'm recording this, like I said, on Sunday. Um, I'm not ready to go back, but we have a pretty good calendar lined up. So we have Friday off and Monday off of next week as well. So kind of easing back into it. And then before we know it, we'll be out for summer vacation. You probably won't hear it, but I do wanna address that my dog is sleeping next to me. Can't really see her. My dog is sleeping next to me right there. Okay, so she's gonna snore really obnoxiously. Um, and I hope you can't hear it, but you probably won't be able to. But she just is very tired from doing absolutely nothing all day. Uh, to start things off, we're gonna go over the usual stuff. We're talking about World War II. We'll go over the grades. We'll go over the calendar. We'll go over what's on Google Classroom that none of you look at, but I'll go over it anyway. And then we'll just talk a little bit about World War II. It's not really a super um, big taxing day, our first day back. I wouldn't do that to you, and I wouldn't do that to myself. And so make sure that you have picked up your study guide. There should be extra copies at the front of the room. Just going over the calendar, let me move me around a little bit. Uh, Monday, today, we are doing our intro to World War II. Tomorrow, we'll do people of World War II, and we'll do a map worksheet. Wednesday, we will do the start of the war. Thursday, we will take a quiz over the people and the start of the war. So basically, all the information that you have learned up until Thursday, right? And then Friday, we don't have any school, so please don't show up. Monday, we do not have school. Once again, do not show up. Tuesday, we'll talk about fighting in Europe and Asia. Wednesday, we'll talk about the atomic bomb and the end of the war. And Thursday, we will review for our test. And Friday, we will take our World War II test. So it's a little bit of a quick unit for such a big war, but we're gonna get through it. The reason why we moved up the test is if you notice that next week you guys have IAR testing, and I'm not about to give you a test during a bunch of other tests that you have to take. I think that would be mean of me. So me, Mr. Snow, Mr. Hecker have decided to move the test up. Um, that following week, like I said, is the IAR testing. Those first 3 days. During those first 3 days, we're gonna have a weird schedule. Uh, when you have me for class, we're just gonna work on preparing for our debate, which will be on that Thursday of that week, right? And so that's all we're focused on during class. There's no tests to study for in my class at all that week. It'll just be preparing for our atomic bomb debate. So gathering evidence, figuring out who's saying what, coming up with the responses, all that stuff. And then Friday, we'll talk about the Holocaust, which happened during World War II. Okay, so what are we learning? The usual stuff. This unit is World War II and the Holocaust. The people that we'll be talking about: FDR, Hitler, Patton, Truman, Churchill, Mussolini, MacArthur, Hirohito, Stalin, and Tojo. Majority of these people you have talked about, or we have talked about in class during World War One. We kind of see like where are they during World War One, and then fast forward to World War Two, we know what they become, and we kind of got their backstory previously, first semester, end of first semester. So we'll dive back in and see what they're up to during World War Two. Some terms to remember, and this is all in your study guide again: Blitzkrieg, hubris, Luftwaffe, um, Battle of Stalingrad, Operation Fortitude, D-Day, VE Day, um, kamikaze attacks, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and the Nuremberg trials. Some old stuff that'll come up on the test and also should be on your study guide is some women in history stuff. Al Capone, that old guy, right? Can't get away from him. And the 1920s. Some countries that we'll talk about: Germany, England, Russia, France, Japan, Italy, and the United States. What will you do? What the heck will you do? Well, you got your study guide in front of you. You're welcome. It's a beautifully crafted study guide with some pretty cool boxes that you can put information in, if I do say so myself. And we'll maybe watch a video. I'm not sure if we'll get to it, but if we do, we will have a worksheet to go along with that. Map worksheet, which we'll do this week, and reading worksheet if we have time. I don't know if we will. Some formative grades, atomic bomb debate, Holocaust quiz, and your summative will obviously be your World War II test. Once again, atomic bomb debate, we'll do that. A debate on whether or not we should have used the atomic bomb. And we will also read another graphic novel called Mouse. We did read They Called Us Enemy, and I thought that was interesting, though normally when I find stuff interesting, you guys find it boring. But I think it's a different way to learn about the war through, graphic novelization kind of brings you guys into it a little bit more than me just barfing up statistics about World War II. So we read They Called Us Enemy. We will read Mouse, which is a little bit more Holocaust based. And those are our graphic novels for this unit. How will you recognize success? How am I going to be like, these guys are successful or these guys are the worst? Well, you're going to construct arguments using evidence from multiple sources. For the debate, you'll create an argument supported by evidence, like I said, about the atomic bomb, and you will understand key concepts, people, events, all that info for your test at the end. And let's talk about Google Classroom, because it's this class's best kept secret. And by secret, I mean it's not a secret, and it's been up all semester. Well, let's look at it. This is what I posted for World War II. It's been up since like March 8th. So not to brag, but I like to get stuff done early, especially during track season when I'm gone for meets like this, which is why I'm doing this video. But I post stuff early, but I post stuff. Like that's what I want you to get at, right? I post things on Google Classroom for your benefit. I'm not posting just for fun, right? I'm posting so that you have the materials in case you lose them. I'm also posting for my mental health because I can't tell you how many times kids come up to me and are like, I lost this. I lost this. Do you have any other copies of this? Do you have any other copies of this? And then they get mad at me because I say, no, I'm sorry. I ran out today. They get mad. Go on Google Classroom and print it out. Okay. If I have extra copies, I would love to give them to you. But on Google Classroom is where you will find it first, right? And so if I'm at my wit's end, you won't, push me over the top. I don't know. I'm just really tired of that. Okay. So please, 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 please use the resources that I give you. Okay. End of rant. Right, Piper? Yeah. Piper's like fed up too. She helps me post. She doesn't have thumbs. Every week I post a schedule for the week. Okay. Look at it. Maybe read what it says. It helps you plan ahead. It helps me plan ahead. You get to plan ahead. You get to plan ahead. We all get to plan ahead. How great is that? You're welcome, right? But only if you read it. So please make sure that you read it. Okay, enough about that. Let's talk about the people, or sorry, restart. Let's talk about World War II, right? By the numbers. So we have the two sides here, the Axis powers and the Allied powers. And if you notice on your study guide, I have split that up into two boxes. And so the Axis powers would be what we would consider our enemies. So Japan, Italy, and Germany. The Allies would be France, America, Britain, and the Soviet Union. Now, I want to point out that Britain, England, I'm counting as the same, right? You could even put the UK, but I'll probably refer to them as either Great Britain or England. Same with the Soviet Union. Soviet Union is modern day Russia, though it goes by the Soviet Union at this time. I will say it as the Soviet Union. I will also say it as the USSR, right? Which is the acronym it goes by. Just some by the numbers stuff. The number of deaths in battle, 15 million. People displaced. That's something people don't talk about enough, is people that were displaced after the war, 16 million. Wounded in battle, 25 million, just some statistics. Total cost of the war, 1.29 trillion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? It's like we're still in debt. The death of World War II, just another chart showing who had the most deaths, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here. The number of people killed in action, the Allies versus the Axis powers, and keep in mind, estimates, this is just an estimate, right? Estimates start at around 15 million, right? So even these numbers are not super accurate because we're unable to pin a number down, right? And if we look at the death toll, this is just kind of a little bit more of an easier chart to read versus that pie chart. But we see in the blue here, the Allied powers, in the red, the Axis powers. We see that Russia has a higher death toll on the Allied power side, and Germany, yes, Germany has a higher death toll on the Axis power side. And that's on your study guide, I'm pretty sure. So make sure you write that down. So what is the difference between killed in action and murder? We're going to talk about statistics here from the war. The Soviet Union, right? And I can't see because it's a stupid Zoom thing. To talk strictly murder, right? People dying unrelated to military strikes. The Soviet Union has 42 million, right? People die. China, 10 million. Grand total for the Allies, 52 million. Germany, on the Axis powers, moving from the Allied to the Axis, 21 million. Japan, 6 million. Grand total for the Axis powers, 27 million. Estimates show that the number of Jewish people murdered run as high as 6 million people. The total death due to murder, not warfare, by Nazi Germany is about 21 million people. By comparison, the US has around approximately 327 million in population. That means approximately 1 out of every 16 people would be dead, right? So that's a lot. In addition to Jewish people, Nazi Germany members murdered prisoners of war, the elderly, the sick, LGBTQ members, Czechoslovakians, Italians, Polish, Ukrainians, and many others, anyone who would be thought to be plotting against them or would be undesirable in their eyes. And we'll talk more about that whole thing and what they considered undesirable in our Holocaust bit of this unit, which will come in a couple weeks. So was this a fight to stop a bad guy? This is what a lot of people that talk about World War II, that learn about World War II, don't understand, is that history is not all about the good guys and the bad guys. Sometimes it's a little bit more nuanced or a little bit more detailed than just that, right? It's not always the good guys versus the bad guys, right? Sometimes the United States is the bad guys. We've talked about that multiple times this year, right? Hitler, in this case, would be considered the bad guy. He is a bad guy, right? We can nail that down. He is a bad guy. I would say awful, like horrific things that he did make him more than a bad guy, just awful, right? But Hitler was responsible for approximately 20 million murders. Bad guy, no question. However, Stalin, who was on whose side? Whose side? Our side, the good guys, killed more people. right? And so, not saying the United States was bad, right? We did good things during World War II, right? We stopped the Nazis, right? But what's interesting about this, right, is we have to be careful when we label what World War II was about. It's not good guys versus bad guys, right? If we label it as the US saving the world against the bad guys, we get stuck because Stalin, this guy, killed twice as many people and he was on our side, right? So we could say we were somewhat the good guys, but we can't just nail that down, right? Yes, Hitler was a terrible guy. So was Stalin, but Stalin was on our side. So how do we justify that? We can't justify that by calling us the good guys, right? So why were we allies with Stalin? Well, there's a couple different reasons. It's interesting to look at how similar Stalin and Hitler really were. Both of them, excuse me, both of them had originally planned like a centralized control of society. They would increase the populations in the prison, but that would cost money. So they both came to the conclusion, do you spend $10 million on prisoners or spend money on 10-cent bullets? They're going to go with the bullets, right? And they both kind of take a violent approach, definitely a violent approach to how they rule their specific countries, right? Nazi Germany and Communist Russia decided to go with the 10-cent bullets, like I said. Also, geographical threats, right? We ally with Russia because Germany, oh my God, I just like spaced out there for a second. Germany is taking over Europe at a very, very fast rate, at a rapid rate. And this kind of shows you, this music's turn that off. Okay, so we see 1933 to 1934, and we slowly see it start to grow. 1936, they just occupied the Rhinelands. I know it doesn't seem like it's growing, but it's going to heat up here really quick. Okay, here we go. 1938, 1939, 1940, 1941, right? We see it start to grow 1942, 1943, and we'll see it shrink here too, 1944. We see it shrink near the end of the war. Boom, end of the war. Nothing else, right? And so Germany only controlled about 4% of the world's land during World War II, but it was eventually knocked back to 2% towards the end of the war, which we saw on that map. Okay, we're not going to watch it again. Skip. The Soviet Union, oh my gosh, I keep coughing. The Soviet Union controlled about 30% of the world's land, but let's keep in mind that most of it was unlivable because it was frozen. Because Elsa is in, Frozen. So not helpful, right? Oh yeah, we have 30% of the world's land, but you can't go on it because it's unlivable. But you know who they do send there? Who would they send to unlivable land? Keep in mind, Stalin wants to control his country, right? He wants to control the Soviet Union. He's going to do that through violence. If he has access to unlivable land that would almost guarantee that the people that live there will die, who is he going to send there? Prisoners, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. This is Great Britain, controlled about 22% at this time. They used to be big. Logistics, this is out of order than I thought. We'll talk about Russian war camps, I think, tomorrow. But let's talk about logistics. This is kind of the last thing that we're going to talk about. The United States, if we're talking SpongeBob terms, right, which if you haven't seen this episode, you need to go watch it. But there's this episode in SpongeBob where SpongeBob wants to get into the salty spittoon, right? and he's not tough enough. So he has to go to Weenie Hut Jr. And Weenie Hut Jr. is exactly like it sounds, where it's not great, guys. That's where all the weenies go. That's where all the wimps go. Salty Spittoon is where all the tough guys go. I'm proud to say that the United States during World War II is the Salty Spittoon of the war, right? Surrounded by many Weenie Hut Juniors. And here's why. We have huge logistical advantages. We own 29% of the world's manufacturing, so like factories and all that stuff. We produce more steel, aluminum, oil, and motor vehicles than all other countries combined. We started with 7 aircraft carriers. Boom. By the end of the war, 146. 200 motorized vehicles per 1,000 people. That's a lot. And we produce Jeeps every 90 seconds. That's a crazy statistic, by the way. Right? That's called the assembly line. And who made the assembly line? Learned about them during the Gilded Age. Do you remember? This is like that, like episodes of Dora where they're like talking to you and they want you to respond, but I don't know what you said. So I hope you said the correct answer, which was Ford, right? Advantage. We have an advantage here with our logistics where we are producing Jeeps every 90 seconds, right? We have ways to get around and we are able to move our troops around as well as supplies. And that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is. We also have 600,000 Jeeps made, a lot of Jeep statistics, 88,000 tanks, 7,333 ships, 20 million rifles, and 40 billion bullets. 43 million men enlisted or drafted in the war, which means what? Who's back at home making all this stuff? Girls, who run the world? Girls, who run the world? Girls, who run the world? It's women. Women are back and producing all this stuff. Go women. All right. It's still Women's History Month when I'm recording this. Okay. All right. Britain and the United States and the USSR and Germany. Let's talk about compare, contrast. We're going to see how Weenie Hut Jr. these guys are. So, United States, we already talked about them. We're killing it. Everyone else, Britain, I would say Britain's doing pretty well. Soviet Union doing pretty well. Germany, not great. Not good. Which is good for us because we will beat them, right? And they're doing just awful things. Japan versus the United States. We absolutely like just go in on Japan, and we talk about that. We talked about that. We talked about they called us enemy with Pearl Harbor, right? So they attack us. That's kind of what gets us into the war. And comparing those two countries, Japan just didn't have a chance, right? Compared to all of the things that we went over with all of our logistics, how we're the, salty spittoon as it was. Japan is not. Okay. They only have 4% of the world's manufacturing. They start with 11 aircrafts, which is more than us, aircraft carriers. My apologies. But it took decades for them to produce them, so they're not as efficient. Less than 1 motorized vehicle per 1,000. They lost 96 of their aircraft in the first 18 months of the war. So not the same, not level playing field. Let's see what you know, right? Let's see if you've been paying attention on your study guide. I should have this beautiful map drawn on the whiteboard. You should have named all 4 allies that you need to know for the test and the Axis powers as well. What is this? Oh, and these are all the questions that we answered in the video today. So let's go from the beginning. I'll give you the answers, I guess. This you should fill out, use your eyeballs, okay? And you know what? If you hate my map and you're like, wow, your map's really ugly, go look at Mr. Snow's map. And I bet you'll come back and apologize to me. Okay, that's all I have to say on that. Name all 4 allies that you need to know. First one, France. Second one, United States of America. Third one, England. Fourth, the Soviet Union. Axis powers. Japan, Italy, and Germany. More questions. What allied country lost the most soldiers? That would be Russia. Which Axis country lost the most soldiers? That would be Germany. Again, for that first one, the allied country, you could put the USSR. My apologies. Okay. I'll say Russia or the USSR, but they mean the same thing. Number 4, who murdered more people, Hitler or Stalin? Stalin. And which side had the military logistical advantage? That would be the United States. And which, you know what? We answered that next one too. Which Axis country bombed Pearl Harbor? Easy. Japan. So this next thing, then, and this is, I promise you, this is like the last thing that we'll do, as far as I know. And I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure there's nothing really after this, because I think I pushed it all to Tuesday. But the following video will explain World War II. It's a video from the movie Jurassic World. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've seen this clip multiple times, and I obviously know how this relates to World War II. I have not seen Jurassic World. So those of you that have, let me know if I should watch it. And I'm gonna be real with you. I've never seen Jurassic Park. And I know. And maybe some of you are like, you know what, that's valid. You've never seen Jurassic Park. Maybe some of you will be mad about that. And I'm sorry. I take it up with Linda and Jim. They never showed me Jurassic Park, right? They never did. They showed me a bunch of other old movies that were not Jurassic Park, though. Okay. So in this clip, you're going to go to number 7 on your study guide. It says, in the movie clip, name what each dinosaur represents. I'm going to give you the answers at the end, okay? But just see what you can figure out. And those of you on the slides have probably already worked ahead and seen it, so that sucks. But your choices are Indominus Rex, Dead Raptor, Big Fish, T-Rex, and the Fighting Raptor. Let's watch it together. The first dinosaur that we see attacking everyone is the Indominus Rex. That would represent Adolf Hitler, Nazi Germany, right? That's who we're fighting. That's who in the video they're fighting. The dead raptor at the beginning that tries to take down this giant dinosaur is France, because France gets out of the war pretty quickly at the beginning. They're on the Allied power side for a hot minute, and then they get kind of engulfed by Nazi Germany. And so similar to the movie, right? The raptor dies almost immediately. Then we have the fighting raptor that comes in. That is Winston Churchill, or England, or Great Britain, right? Who is small but mighty. As you can see on the map on my board, they're not very big. And we saw in the logistics, they have good numbers on stuff, but they're not, our level of stuff, but they're going to keep fighting no matter what. The T-Rex that we use, or that they use in the clip, right, is just as bad as the one that they're fighting, right? The T-Rex is just as a monster as the Indominus Rex, right? But it's on their side. They're using it to their advantage, right? To take down the Indominus Rex. And that's what we do with Joseph Stalin. He's a monster, right? But we use this monster, the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin, to the United States' advantage during World War II. And so that's what that represents. And the big fish that comes in right at the end to save the day is the United States, because we don't enter the war until very, very late. But when we come in, like I said, Salty Spittoon, how tough are you? We are tough, okay? And it's going to be hard to beat us. And so that concludes this video. I appreciate you coming along with me on this journey. I hope that you enjoyed yourselves, or at least got down the notes. That's probably the bare minimum. And I will see you all in person tomorrow. Goodbye. I'm going to end this. If I can find it on here. Stop recording. Goodbye.